This is dealing with a kind of a weird atlas, but several years ago, I published an article in Calafia, which is the Journal of the California Map Society, and it was intended to be sort of a lighthearted thing. It wasn't deep, serious research, but it was about an old atlas and how it was used through the years by the family that owned it. It was quite marked up. It would be of no interest to a used book dealer. But if we look at it as an object of material culture, its significance increases. We can view it through what Martin Bruckner has called the social life of an atlas. Now, Christian Jacob in 1996 noted that the way that maps are used is probably the most difficult single aspect to understanding the extent and limits of map use, since when people look at maps, they leave no visible marks on the maps themselves. Their vision is invisible to us. And I believe that this atlas and its annotations contradict that statement. Okay. This is the atlas. It's a little beat up. In fact, it's a lot beat up. It's at a critical stage. It's too old to be of use, but it's too new to be considered antique. It was published by Collier's in 1937. Let's see. Collier's was a weekly magazine that first began publication in 1888, and it ceased publication back in 1957. They first published an atlas at the turn of the 20th century. I am not quite sure of the exact date. I found a number of different dates where it supposedly was the start. But they also published a popular encyclopedia, which seems to be better known. So today what we're going to do is look at this atlas from cover to cover, and we're going to look at the contents, the annotations, and their meanings. Okay. And here we have, obviously, the title page. And I'm not quite sure why they put 3 copyright dates on it, but this one was the most recent, 1937. The table of contents, it shows what sorts of things were in it, lists the maps and all, kind of basic. On the flyleaf, in faded and neat handwriting for the most part, is, and it's not showing up well here, but it's about in the middle there, in very neat handwriting, is Mr. and Mrs. Francis X. Zink, Jr., number 18 Terrace Court, Lima, Ohio. And surrounding this, in more visible stuff, and in less elegant handwriting, are the same names, but with 5 other addresses, the various places the owners lived in Ohio and California. And simple drawings around the flyleaf edges show a car, a train, an airplane, a trailer, and a mobile home. Typical of its time, this atlas was printed by Biography, which nobody's heard of now, which was wax engraving. Only 3 colors could be used in addition to black, and those were blue, cream, and orange. And here we have just a basic example of one of the maps. There are no roads shown on the primary maps. There are some other maps, but railroads are shown. And this was long before the interstate system, and only 10 years after the origins of the U.S. highway numbering system. Terrain is shown by what was called woolly worm hashers. There are no contour lines, and certainly there is no shaded relief. Okay. It also contains thematic maps, some city maps, and a gazetteer. The maps were made by Rand McNally. Okay. Throughout Franklin Roosevelt's presidency, he gave fireside chats on the radio. After Pearl Harbor, he told the population.
10 minutes.
told the population to buy a map of the world. The increased map sales at the time show that people took that request seriously. On his fireside chat of February 23rd, 1942, FDR advised people to take out your map and spread before you a map of the whole earth and follow me with the reference which I shall make to the world encircling battle lines of this war. This is shortly after Pearl Harbor. Plainly, this atlas did the job for the family. Although there are no markings for all of the major events, there are some. The map of France, if you look at it, has an X in the ocean, and it says Allies. And there's another X on the French coastline and a pencil leading from that X to that X from England. Plainly, the user was showing the Normandy invasion of June 6, 1944, D-Day. Surprisingly, there are no markings for Pearl Harbor, Hiroshima, and other major events, but I think seeing these markings indicate that the atlas was probably consulted, even if it wasn't always marked. The slide of the map of the Pacific Ocean has a circle drawn on the Korean peninsula, which at that time, of course, was not North and South Korea, but one country. And it has a line joining it to the California coast. The marks were made at the beginning of the Korean War in 1950, and they would seem to indicate the owner's concern about the war and the vulnerability of California, where the owners lived at that time. Atlases of this era included a map of the solar system, gazetteers of the world, which were a brief encyclopedic entry of towns, states, countries that provided basic information on location, population, industries, and agricultural projects. I'm going to have to go back to that one in a minute. They also included black and white maps of major cities, and the owners checked the gazetteer for possible towns to settle in when they left Ohio to make a post-war trek to relocate in California. Okay. This is one of the thematic maps that we find in the atlas, and designed to show various things like coal mining and so forth. But you'll notice that there are names of the states written in. The maps themselves have no names printed on them, but this is an indication of how a child in the family might have learned the states, sitting with mom or dad, and they writing in the state names after pointing to those blank spots. Okay. Let's see. And here we have a larger version. So they typically had maps of the solar system. And here is a start of the gazetteer. And the gazetteer took many pages in it, and information about individual cities and what were there. Also in the gazetteer were some city maps, and I've included Los Angeles because it's in my area. At the end of the atlas is a table showing the U.S. presidents by election year, by political party, and chief opponent up to 1936. Obviously, it was published in 37. But the owner added 2 more entries to the columns, FDR's final 2 terms. And I might note the owner had not been eligible to vote until 1940, so. Okay, during the lifetime of this atlas, many significant world events occurred. World War II, the dropping of the atomic bomb, the Korean War, of course these are after its publications, statehood for Alaska and Hawaii, the Vietnam War, the first steps on the moon, and 14 more presidents. Most of these events, of course, are not indicated in this atlas or reflected in it. Its useful life was about 15 years, although it was occasionally still consulted. Eventually, new atlases were purchased, but this atlas remained in the home, and its information compared to newer atlases when they came in. And I think that this examination shows that we could sometimes see how a map was used, and that visible marks are often included. An article from 2017 by Mark Dugan on the cultural life of maps examined the use and markings of an A to Z London map. So he was looking at the same sort of thing. Conversations with non-geographer friends tell me that this atlas isn't unique and that such markings are still made by map users. So I think that Christian Jacobs' statement doesn't always reflect how maps and atlases were used, and the idea that we don't know what the map user did. Now, atlases like this are not necessarily collectibles to be found in museums and rare book libraries, although I, of course, went online to see what was out there, and I was amazed at the number of copies of this one that were listed online at Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Abe Books, and Thrift Books, and the wide range of prices. The atlases were created to be used, and I think it is important to look at them as objects of material culture and to understand how they were used in context. Leave another there. And a final word. As you've probably guessed, I know the history and uses of this atlas because I grew up with it. It belonged to my mother. And no, I am not older than the atlas. Okay, thank you.
Any questions, comments? Bon Mose.
Oh.
Thank you. This was wonderful, and I did not guess that it was your family atlas, so that was a nice surprise. I'm struck by the similarity of a tradition of people marking up family Bibles with information about their families, and wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
I haven't looked into that much, but yes, I have seen them. Sorry about that. I have seen marked up Bibles. In fact, my family had one, and among other things in those, they tended, I think, to put family trees and so forth, but noting things. Yeah, I think that there's a whole world of things out there that we could look at and look at the markings and see what they mean. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes? Yep.
Oh.
Yes, I was the child who wrote in the States. That's some of my earliest work on geography, although at the time we didn't have geography classes, we had social studies classes. But, and to a large extent I wrote in the States because my mother felt I should learn to read in the States.
And here you are. And here you are.
Yes. Well, she's the same one who taught me how to read a map when I was 7. I asked one too many times, how much farther? She handed me a map, showed me how to do it, and said, you figure it out. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.